What's up, YouTube? I am FlyGunHG, and I do a ton of hardcore Nuzlocks here on my channel. I forgot to introduce myself earlier, so I'm doing it now. Let's cut back to past me. All right, so today what we're doing, hi YouTube, we are going to be ranking the encounters that you can get in Pokemon Emerald. It's also going to kind of be a thing for Ruby and Sapphire, but we're going to focus on Pokemon Emerald. We are going to rank out what are the optimal and best encounters for your hardcore Nuzlocke. So we're really going to try and be thinking about how the Pokemon are best used in the game against the most difficult parts of the game. Remember, this is my opinion. I do a lot of these. I'm technically a pro Nuzlocker because I get paid to do this, but I'm just an idiot on the internet. Don't listen to me too hard. Let's hop into it. Also, irrelevant just means anything that like you can't get in the game, like Metagross, for example. And then also, unless there is a massive difference between the not fully evolved version of the Pokemon and the fully evolved version of the Pokemon, I'm just going to put all of the NFEs in here, and we're just going to talk about the line as a whole, right? Let's go ahead and get started then. So Raichu. Raichu can pretty much only be caught in the Safari Zone, if I remember correctly. It's a pretty solid encounter because it's one of the only electric types that you can get in the game. And of course, we know that in Emerald, the champion is a water type trainer, and so is the 8th gym leader. So Raichu's solid. It's not like an amazing encounter. There's not that many great encounters in the Safari Zone though. So if you get a Pikachu and you happen to catch it, it's pretty good, especially for like fighting water types, which there are going to be a lot in the late game. A little frail, so it's harder to switch things in on, but you can kind of just set up sweeps by just spamming Thunderbolt. Sandslash is actually, I'm going to put that in A tier. I think Sandslash is kind of weak, but where you get it in the game is it is right before Norman, the 5th gym leader. And Norman, especially for first-time players, is a huge wall in Nuzlocke because of that slaking that he has, or the slacking, whatever. This guy is relatively physically bulky, so he's a great check into it. And you can usually get it in either in Mirage Tower or the desert. So you're pretty likely to get this. I would say Sandslash is an A tier because it helps you against Norman. Ninetales is like barely in this game, and you're going to get it really late in the game. It's a good Pokemon, kind of. You're much better getting Medicham or one of the ghosts from Mount Pyre. Wigglytuff is also a C tier encounter. It's got decent special attack, and it's got a lot of coverage moves, so that helps a little bit. There's a lot of other much better normal types. Vileplume, I think, is the worst of the two options. Grass types tend to not be that great, even though you've got the water types that you're going to be fighting, because most of them have Ice Beam, or they have types that make them hit super effective into grass types. So, for example, Ice Beam or Sludge Bomb. Decent Pokemon, though. You're not going to do much better on the route between Verdanturf and Mauville than Vileplume. So, I don't know. I think I would always go with Sunflora before Vileplume, just because then you can at least switch into strong ground type moves, which there aren't that many in this game, I guess, but grass types in general get cucked in Generation 3 just because there's not a lot of moves that they can use, and Giga Drain is already pretty low power, so not the best encounter, not the worst. Golduck, there are so many water types in this game. I would say normally Golduck is actually pretty underrated, but in this one, there's so many water types, you have to get this from the Safari Zone, so you miss out on Raichu, you miss out on Rhydon, you miss out on Heracross, so it's not that great of an encounter. There are much, much, much better water types to get other than Golduck. But it's a solid Pokemon. Maybe C tier is a little unfair, maybe low B tier. This is where we're going to separate these because not everybody can do trade evolutions. So these Pokemon are both pretty good regardless of whether you do them and do the trade evolution or not. Cadabra, high B tier. Very solid Pokemon. Low A tier, actually. Low A tier, yeah. Yeah, Cadabra is a really good Pokemon. Very fast. It can just hit Stab Psychic. If you're playing with EVs, just max out this thing's special attack EVs and take it to town. Really, really great Pokemon. And of course, Alakazam in that same token is an S tier Pokemon. Alakazam, phenomenal. It's Cadabra, but with 2 spoons, which means it has more special attack, more speed, more special defense. You got to be really careful with these guys. It's very hard to switch them in because they have such frail defense. Pretty solid Pokemon, but just be careful if you're switching in, and on set mode, it kind of makes these a little bit worse. Machoke. Machoke is a little too weak, a little too slow, and a little too frail to be amazing. There's not a lot that it can do other than click Brick Break. And because in this game, you can only use one Brick Break TM, you have to be really confident that this thing is what you're taking to the Elite Four. It's not bulky enough to, sweep Glacia, whatever her name is. It's going to take too much damage from Wall Ray, and you can't safely switch it in on crits and stuff like that. So Machamp, very good. I'm going to put this in high A tier, not quite S tier, but this is a very good Pokemon. It's Machoke, but better in every single way. It's got 4 arms instead of 2 arms. That's like twice the damage. That's just how math works. So this is a really great Pokemon. Very strong, relatively bulky, a little slow, which is frustrating. Guts is a great ability, not as good on slow Pokemon, but pretty good ability. Tentacruel is next here. Tentacruel is an S tier Pokemon. Tentacruel is always an S tier Pokemon in my opinion. I think it's guaranteed to get. Very fast, very bulky, relatively strong, which is great. It's not as good in this game because it doesn't get special Sludge Bomb. Really good into Lance because of Ice Beam. You're speedy, you're fast. You should be able to, with a little bit of Speed IVs or Speed EVs, outspeed Flygon, outspeed Salamence. One of the few water types that can easily outspeed all of those guys. Just generally pretty good. Really good into Altaria, really good into Swablu. Like all of those. Swablu's not hard. I don't know why I said Swablu, but really good into Winona. So this is a solid Pokemon. Graveler, low C tier. There's better Pokemon than Graveler. The ground types are not as good without Bulldoze because you don't have a really reliable way to hit stuff with stab ground type moves other than Dig, which is worse in this game, Magnitude, which is worse in this game, and Earthquake, which you usually don't get until much later. There's better defensive pivots. This is solid, but it's not like an amazing encounter. Golem is a little bit better. I'll put it in low B tier, but same thing. I mean, it's strong, but especially late game, like it's not doing anything against Wallace, that's for sure. So I don't know. This is okay, but not amazing. Magneton is an S tier Pokemon. This is really good, especially before they did the Steel nerf, and I want to say Gen 6. Steel is a disgusting type. You don't resist water type moves still, so you're still taking decent damage, but it's relatively bulky, it's decently fast, and it's just super, super strong. I would put this above Tentacruel, actually, specifically because this game has Wallace and Juan. This really helps against the Kingdra as well, because you can teach it Shockwave. Dodrio is okay. I think I would prefer Raichu over Dodrio in Safari Zone like 9 out of 10 times, unless I already had an electric type or something. Oh, the other good thing about Magneton is that you can pretty much guarantee catch it. So maybe Raichu's not quite as good because of that, because you can always just get this. But Dodrio is fast, it's strong, but actually because we have a flying normal type that we can get instead of this that is significantly better, I'm going to put it even lower in B tier, but it's not a C tier encounter. Muck. Muck means that this is what you're getting in Fiery Path, and you're also not getting coughing or wheezing, so I think this is pretty low tier. I think it's much better in later generations. This is, yeah, I mean, it's a good special defensive wall, I suppose. I think I would prefer most of the other Pokemon in Fiery Path over this Pokemon. So low C tier. Electrode is, it's very fast. It's got Explosion. Don't be afraid to blow up your Pokemon in Nuzlocke. This essentially makes Tate and Liza really free if you just blow up on their first 2 Pokemon with this thing. Great sacrificial lamb, this Pokemon. Wheezing is definitely better than Muck. I mean, the ground type immunity is really nice. It's very defensively bulky, but it just can't really deliver too much damage in return. And again, I think I'd prefer like Camerupt or Torkoal here over Wheezing in Fiery Path. I would say something like this. They're pretty, it's a solid encounter for sure. But because we don't have lefties in this game, really, I mean, unless you get pickup and cheat and use pickup, but like, yeah, it doesn't have reliable recovery. It doesn't hit that very hard because Sludge Bomb is physical. Yeah, just not an amazing Pokemon, but it's solid. You could do a lot worse. Rhydon is better than Graveler and Golem in every single way, but again, because you're getting it so late and you're predominantly facing special attackers and water types, I don't know, it's not that good. I would rather get some of these other Safari Zone Pokemon than Rhydon, so. Sidra, we'll separate Sidra and Kingdra because not everybody can get Kingdra. Sidra it's maybe a little bit better than Golduck, maybe. I don't actually know if that's true. I think it might be a little faster, something like that. It's a pretty average water type. Seaking is a below average water type. If you're gonna do a Swift Swim encounter, then you're gonna want Sidra. So let's actually put this in like low C tier. This is a very mediocre Pokemon. It gets much better once it gets access to physical waterfall because Seaking has better attack than special attack for some reason. But, I mean, I guess you can spam Horn Drill if you want. Don't get this Pokemon. Starmie is also S tier. Starmie is an S tier Pokemon. Honestly, Starmie is better than all of these. It's bulkier than Alakazam. The speed difference, it's a little slower, but it really doesn't matter because you're not really getting outsped by things anyways. Phenomenal stab coverage in Psychic and Surf. Another great Ice Beam user. This is a better Ice Beam user than Tentacruel. Filthy Pokemon. It can get Recover. The one thing that you have to be careful about is that once you evolve it, you have to be very careful with its moveset because if you lose Recover or Psychic on it, then you can't get it back because it's a Stone evolution. So you have to be a little bit careful with that, but this is a phenomenal Pokemon. Disgusting. And you can usually pretty much guarantee it by getting all the dupes from fishing in other places and then get this in Lily Cove or in the Aqua Hideout. Pinsir, this poor bastard really got screwed before like Generation 4 and 5 when more moves became like physical and it started getting access to stuff. Not the worst bug type, but it's just Heracross, but worse. It's okay, but no, no. I actually don't think this even gets a bug move in this game. So it's not even like it's that good against freaking Tate and Liza. No, this is a bad encounter. You're likely to accidentally have it run in the Safari Zone anyways. I'd much rather take many of these other Pokemon than this Pinsir. Sorry, Pinsir. Gyarados, I mean, busted Pokemon, Intimidate, disgusting, really bulky, even without the physical special split, and it has to rely on like Return or Earthquake or whatever. This is a nasty Pokemon. Dragon Dance, like, I don't know. If anybody doesn't put this in S tier, then they're insane. Really easy to guarantee any electric type moves that the opponent has. So yeah, this is a disgusting Pokemon. No point in discussing this anymore. Crobat. Crobat is another normally S tier Pokemon. In this game, I'm gonna put it in low or high A tier because its moveset is really, really underwhelming in this game. It does not get Crunch, it does not get Brave Bird, so you're stuck with Aerial Ace, and I want to say Poison Fang. There's no Cross Poison. That being said, you can get it pretty early, and it's very bulky for such a speedy Pokemon, so it's a very, very good Pokemon. The Ludicolo that Wallace has, it actually does really well into that if you teach it Aerial Ace, but other than that, you know, it's just missing out a little bit on these higher base power moves that it gets in later games. Lantern, I'll be honest, I've never really used Lantern in this game. It gets Volt Absorb, so that's pretty good. It can wall a lot of Wallace's team because of its water typing, as well as Juan's team, so it's solid. I think it's still better than all of these other Pokemon here, for sure. Yeah. Xatu is kind of a nothing Pokemon. It doesn't do anything amazingly, but it doesn't do anything poorly. It's kind of like a jack of all trades sort of thing. You're very likely to get it in the Safari Zone, but again, it's not really doing much. I guess it has Whispash. It has Wish Pass, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else that it really does all that well, and it's surprisingly speedy, so that's good. So I'll put it around Raichu, I suppose. Blossom's a pretty solid Pokemon, surprisingly bulky either on special defense or defense. I want to say special defense. The downside, of course, is that there's like no good grass moves in this game. You're either stuck with Petal Dance or Magical Leaf. But in terms of the grass types that you have access to, there's really only one or two that are better than it. I think it's better than Vileplume, but it's not much better than these other Pokemon. I would put this in mid-B tier as well, something like here. You know, it's okay. And you can get Moonlight, you can do some decent damage, and it's really helpful into like Kingdra, for example, and stuff like that with Magical Leaf, if the Kingdra uses Double Team, right? Zumaril, normally a filthy Pokemon because of huge power and Waterfall, but in this game, it's not that good. It's just too slow, and you can't take advantage of huge power because all of its water moves are special in this game. I honestly think that it's not as good as these other two water types. The one benefit is that you can usually get it earlier than these. Actually, because of that, it's bulky enough that it helps into Brawly, which can be kind of a wall in early game, and it helps into Roxanne, obviously, if you take Torchic. So that's actually much more usable than these Pokemon. So I'll put it in high B tier, I suppose. Wobbuffet, you guarantee this Pokemon, so that's cool. You can always get this from the egg, why not? So that's nice. Wobbuffet's not as good in Nuzlocke as people might think it is, just because the AI rarely ever switches, so you don't really get anything out of Shadow Tag. And if you're playing on set mode, you usually have to bring the Wobbuffet in, take an attack, and then also tank another attack, which is really hard if you're playing around crits. So it's not quite as good as you might think, but Encore is obviously filthy. We'll put this in low B tier, something like this. It's not terrible by any means, and it can learn Charm. I guess because it can learn Charm, we can put it here, maybe. Something like that. I don't know. All right, Girafarig. Oh man, buddy. I don't think you're that good. I mean, I guess actually you're quite good because you've got Shadow Ball. Never mind, I take it back. Girafarig, my Beep Beep Pony, you're high B tier simply because you make Phoebe completely trivial. You bring Girafarig, teach it Shadow Ball, kill Phoebe. There's nothing that they can do to it. There's other better normal types, I would argue. I would rather have Girafarig than Xatu simply for the Shadow Ball immunity. Heracross is an A tier Pokemon, even without close combat. There's very few Pokemon that have flying moves, so other than that, it's pretty bulky in special defense. Very strong Pokemon, relatively speedy. It can have Guts, which is obviously good. Teach it Brick Break, slap a White Herb onto it. You sweep Sydney. You can definitely sweep the Glacia Lady. Then it can also probably take care of a couple of Wallace's Pokemon if you need it to. Macargo is an F tier Pokemon. This thing evolves at level 38, meaning that you don't get this until very, very late in the game. Slugma sucks balls. no pun intended. Bad typing, it's not very strong, it's too slow. This is an F tier encounter. You get this instead of freaking Spinda or Skarmory on that one route, or instead of Torkoal in Fiery Path, and I would be pissed. Trash Pokemon, first F tier for sure. Corsola's okay, but no, it's not. This thing is bad. You don't get it until late in the game. So like it doesn't do anything into the Elite Four. Never bring this Pokemon into the Elite Four. There is no reason for it. It's not even good into the water type champion because it's got the rock typing. So it loses to that. It's too weak to do anything. You're not outspeeding any of Drake's dragon types to hit Ice Beam or rock moves. So Flygon is earthquaking the hell out of this poor little bastard. Actually, this is another F tier encounter. Sorry. There's no point in wasting your time fishing for this. It's not good in this game. It's good in other games. Not this one. Skarmory, as always, S tier Pokemon. In this game, it doesn't have Roost, so it's not quite as good, but it's very defensively bulky. They're very good into Tate and Liza, for example. Defensive wall that's fast and has immunity to Earthquake. Phenomenal Pokemon. Very, very good. Kingdra, great typing, especially without the fairy type. So this is an A tier encounter for sure. There is the downside that you can't get this without a trade, but if you're fine with trading or using ulterior motives to do the trade, then it's a very good Pokemon. Donphan, trash moveset. I don't think it even learns Earthquake by level up, if I remember correctly. So for that reason, it's in B tier, but it is a very solid Pokemon if you want to waste your Earthquake TM on it. Again, you're going to get it pretty late in the game, and at that point, you're facing a lot of water types. You're facing against Tate and Liza, so it's really not that good. I'd actually argue that it's not even better than these ones now that I think about it. I think you always want Heracross if you can from the Safari Zone. All these other Safari Zone encounters are not that good. Sceptile. Okay. All of these are pretty good Pokemon because they are starters. Sceptile is definitely the best of the grass types in this game because it has Leaf Blade, so it actually gets a high base power stab move, and it's very fast and relatively bulky and stuff. So I would put this in the A tier for sure. Better than these guys, something like this. Blaziken, one of the few fire types in the game, one of the few fighting types in the game if you don't get Medicham or Hariyama. So this is a very good Pokemon. This is a good choice as well. The bad thing about Sceptile is that you really have to rely on other encounters to deal with Watson. Watson is a huge issue, and if you go with Sceptile, then you're really, really in trouble because you don't have the fire type or fighting type from Blaziken that takes care of the Magneton, and you don't have, obviously, the ground moves from Marshtomp that makes it completely trivial. But this is still a really good Pokemon. Other than Watson, though, after that, it kind of falls off. It's not that useful in anything else because it takes super effective damage from Tate and Liza, takes super effective damage from the ground types that Maxie has, for example, the water types. Not super useful, obviously, into Winona. Pretty good into Norman, though, so I guess Norman as well, this is very good. Though I don't think you'll be getting Blaziken before Norman, so you're stuck with Combusken. But still, very, very solid Pokemon, obviously. Swampert is by far the best. Water Ground is a phenomenal typing in this game. As you can see, water types in general are very good, but in this game, Water Ground is very good because there are very few Pokemon that have grass type moves that you actually have to fight. So this thing is phenomenal. Stab Earthquake, obviously. You get, again, it makes Watson completely trivial, which is otherwise incredibly difficult. I suppose, thinking about it now, that because Graveler and Golem are one of the only Pokemon that is good into Watson and that you can get early game, maybe these are high B tier, actually. Yeah, I think actually, now that I think about it, these are better than Donphan, explicitly because of Watson. That's the only thing they're good for. Mightyena, because of how ubiquitous it is, how easy it is to get, is actually quite good. I'm going to put this in A tier. That might be kind of weird, but it's got Intimidate. You pretty much can guarantee it because it's in so many routes. Dark type is actually quite good into Tate and Liza, who can be really, really difficult. So if you just keep this thing around, use it when you need to get an Intimidate off, and then just have it, sit there in front of Tate and Liza, Solrock, and Lunatone, is actually a very useful Pokemon for what it is. It's pretty weak, and it sucks that Crunch is special attack in this game, but you can teach it Shadow Ball if you want, if you don't have a better opportunity. Pretty solid Pokemon. Linoone, if you've seen my video, one of my first videos, you can set up a guaranteed sweep of the Emerald Elite Four with Linoone and Belly Drum. More or less guaranteed. It's almost impossible to lose. This, I would say this is an S tier Pokemon. It's also just good in general. It gets early access to Headbutt, so it does decent damage. You get pickups, so you can get a lot of more useful items. Yeah, this is a really easy Pokemon, and theoretically, if you keep this thing alive and you don't mind cheesing the Elite Four, then it's a guaranteed Elite Four. You should go check out that video. I'll put a little card thing here, there, somewhere. I don't freaking know. Beautifly, sorry buddy, Beautifly, it's not F tier because it's it evolves so early and it is okay early game, but it's pretty low down there. And 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to want Dustox over Beautifly. Dustox is A tier, actually, I would argue, because of the matchup into Brawly. This thing resists all of Brawly's moves by ×4. If you can get Dustox, it makes Brawly a breeze. Beautifly is still B for Brawly. You know what? I think Beautifly, that's fair. That's fair. We can put Beautifly in B for Brawly. Again, Dustox has a little bit more viability with like later in the game. Can also even kind of be okay into Watson if you need him to be. Beautifly's definitely not as good, but you're right. That's my bad. I'd rather have him than a Zumaril for Brawly, I think. You're right. Thank you, chat. Thank you for keeping me honest. I forgot. Look at this Wingull sprite. What is this? That's a fake sprite. That is not a real sprite. Look at this thing. Ludicolo. I think in later gens, this is one of the best encounters you can get. Water Grass is a really good typing. In this game, because you have to keep Lombre until after the 7th gym before you can get a freaking Water Stone, this thing is not nearly as good, but it's very good into Wallace. Giga Drain and just Surf and Ice Beam, pretty good from this thing. I think this might actually be better than Sceptile, if I'm being honest, because of the water typing. Do I think that? Yes. This is a good encounter, but it's only good in late game. It's pretty much dog shit for the first part of the game. You're never using this into any. I think because of that reason, Sceptile is more viable because this is trash for the first like 6 games, but in the late game, it's quite good. Shiftry, Shiftry's an F tier encounter. I'm trying to think of a reason that this is good. I guess technically it's solid into Tate and Liza. Yeah, just explicitly because of Tate and Liza, it's not horrible into Lunatone and Solrock. It takes advantage of the chlorophyll if Solrock sets up the sunny day. It's got that, I suppose. It's decent special attacker. It's a fine Pokemon. All right, baby boy Swellow, my boy Blue. This is an S tier encounter. I would be willing to, nope, because Gyarados is guaranteed. But I would be willing to argue that if you get this thing, it makes the game almost completely trivial. Give it some attack IVs, pre-poison or pre-burn it from Guts. So you just get an instant +1 attack. You use Fachade, Facade, whatever you want to call it. You use that, you can sweep through almost the entire game. Really, really just busted Pokemon because of how fast it is. S tier encounter. Pelipper, not as good as it is in later games, and it's not quite as good as it is in Diamond and Pearl and Platinum because of the physical special split. It doesn't get Air Slash. It's just a little too weak in this game. There's much better water types and much better flying types, so I'm going to put this in high B tier. All right, Gardevoir. If you get lucky enough to get Gardevoir, this is pretty good. It's not as good as Alakazam. I don't even know if it's as good as Cadabra. Actually, it's probably better than Cadabra. I would put this in an A tier. Strong, fast, special attacker. Actually, I don't, it might even be better than Alakazam. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm actually going to put this in S tier. And we're going to change this order a little bit here. We're going to do this. This is a psychic type that is really strong and really powerful. You get it very early in the game. And I think it learns Calm Mind early in the game too, like level 30 or something. This is a really good Pokemon that can do devastating amounts of damage very early in the game. So yeah. All right, Masquerain is not in Pokemon Emerald, but it is technically in Ruby and Sapphire, so I can rate it here. It's not totally useless, obviously, because you've got Intimidate on it, but it's Bug Flying, which is trash. It's not a good Pokemon, and it's like a 2% encounter rate or whatever, so you're very unlikely to get this. It's almost not worth ranking, but like, I don't know, it's fine. Breloom's an S tier Pokemon. This completely trivializes Watson for the most part. You can teach it Bulk Up very early. It's got Mach Punch. It's got Leech Seed. It doesn't really need its grass typing, but it's a very good fighting type. And honestly, just Mach Punch and Bulk Up is very, very, very deadly. Let's actually separate these two here because there's an argument to be made to not evolve your Slaking or your Vigoroth because Vigoroth is a very fast Pokemon and does a lot of damage and you don't have to deal with Truant. So because of that, I would actually put this in high B tier. It's not amazing, and there's a lot of other normal types that are really good, like Lanoon, for example. You'd have to not have Lanoon to keep this on the team, but it's still really strong and relatively bulky and pretty fast. And it has Vital Spirit, so you won't fall asleep, so it's pretty chill. Slaking, you need to know how to use it. If you're playing on set mode, if you're playing on Switch mode, this thing is an S tier encounter, but we're gonna leave it in A tier. It's definitely better than this. Something like this. Yeah, just gotta be careful that you don't accidentally leave it into Truant on turns where like your opponent can set up or heal for free or stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of ways that you can screw up with this Pokemon, but if you pull it off, obviously it's a really good bulky Pokemon. All right, Ninjask. I will rank these going off the idea that you can only keep one of them. And if you're gonna keep one of them, freaking keep Shedinja. Ninjask is not very good, especially in this game. You just don't have any good ways to deal damage. It's super frail. It's worse than Masquerain, that's for sure, because at least Masquerain has Intimidate. I could argue an F tier, but yeah, actually this is F tier. It's very fast, but it doesn't matter. You're not doing enough damage. Like, pick a different Pokemon. Give it some speed EVs. It's not worth it. Shedinja obviously is an S tier Pokemon. If you don't know what Shedinja's deal is it's a Pokemon with 1 HP, but it has Wonder Guard, meaning that it can only be damaged by like weather and stuff like that, as well as super effective moves. If you take advantage of that, you can get free switches, you can completely wall certain Pokemon. It's a very busted Pokemon. There's a reason that a lot of people ban this. I will say here, if it's your first time Nuzlocking, don't ban any Pokemon. Just do it with all of these busted Pokemon and just make sure to have some fun, right? Don't feel bad about using Shedinja if you want to use Shedinja, but it is a very broken Pokemon. Exploud. Exploud is an F tier Pokemon. This is a terrible Pokemon. Just trash. There are so many better normal types. It's too slow. It's not very bulky. It's got good HP, but other than that, not very bulky. Completely screwed by the physical special split. This Pokemon sucks. This is a terrible Pokemon. I've never been able to make this Pokemon work. It does have soundproof, I guess. Cool. The wild Jigglypuff that you sing isn't going to put you to sleep. Whoop-de-frickin-do. Don't use this Pokemon. Sack it if you need to. It's best for a sack. Hariyami. Pretty solid Pokemon. Fighting type is pretty good. I'll put this in A tier. It's not as good as Blaziken. It's not as good as Machamp if you get it. Actually, because of Thick Fat, that can really help. If you manage to get Thick Fat, it can really help against Flannery. And it's also really good into Norman. I'm losing my words here, but really good into Norman. Nosepass. I don't know if I've ever used this Pokemon. It's pretty difficult to get. It means that you're going to delay your encounter until you get a Mock Bike and then go and Rock Smash and get lucky in Granite Cave. And there's so many better encounters in Granite Cave than this Nosepass. This is probably an F tier encounter too. It's kind of mean, but poor Nosy. Delcatty. Delcatty, I would argue, is another F tier encounter. Terrible Pokemon. Honestly, worse than Exploud. You have to use a Moonstone on it, so that's dumb. So you don't even get it that early. Very weak. It's just trash. It's useless early game. This is a terrible encounter. F tier for sure. Sableye. It's just not good. It's not good. You can guarantee ghost types elsewhere. Like, you don't need Sableye. Sableye is a C tier encounter. It's not a good Pokemon. The one thing I'll say is that it's actually quite good into Brawly. Like, if you manage to get it, Brawly literally can't touch Sableye. So because of that, I don't know, we'll put it in B tier, like above Beautifly. But like, the chances that you get it are pretty low. I guess if you're playing Sapphire, you have better chances, but Mawile is a bad Pokemon. Sorry, buddy. I think I'd rather have... It's still a Steel type, and it still has Intimidate. So it's actually, I guess we'll put it in high B tier. It's a little bit above Sableye here. Obviously not good into Brawly, but Intimidate is decent. When are you using this? I guess into Norman. And at that point, it's probably the only Steel type you can get unless you get lucky and get Skarmory. Yeah, mid B tier, something like that. I don't know. Okay, well, I was wrong about that being the only Steel type that you can get, because you can get Agron. I think Agron is a really good Pokemon, but because the level cap in this game is so low for the Elite Four, you're actually not getting Agron until the Elite Four, maybe against the 8th Gym Leader, and at that point, you're facing a lot of water types, so this Pokemon isn't as good as in some games. A lot of the Elite Four is special in these games. This is really not helping that much, and Lairon is a little too weak to do much damage into anything else. It's pretty good into Tate and Liza, if you can get rid of the Claydol. I don't know. I can't put this in A tier. I can put this in high B tier, which is a bit odd because it is just a really good Pokemon. No, you know what? We'll put it in low A tier, and it's better than Dustox. I mean, come on. So yeah, we'll put it in low A tier for sure. Medicham, very good Pokemon. Huge power or pure power or whatever, very, very good. I would argue that this is the best of the fighting types because you have huge power and you're relatively bulky and you're decently speedy enough. You can also go the special route if you want, which means you can take care of Thunder Punch, Fire Punch, and Ice Punch if you want, which helps into Drake a little bit. It can learn Calm Mind. I think it's the best of the fighting types for sure, other than Breloom. Wow, we're getting to some rough ones here, guys. Manectric. I think Manectric is one of the better encounters that you can get on that route that has just like a crap load of Pokemon. So I'm gonna put this in high B tier. It's a little too frail, but it actually does really good into Wallace and into Juan because it's so fast and because it's relatively strong. So this is pretty good. I would argue this is better than Raichu. Maybe Raichu's better, but solid Pokemon. And you can get it earlier than these Pokemon, so it helps into like the random flying types and stuff too. Actually, because of that, yeah, let's put it at high B tier because you get it so much earlier. Plusle and Minun are fine. One of them has Encore. I don't remember which one, but like whatever. They're okay. Thunderbolt is still Thunderbolt, and they're relatively speedy, so they're good into Winona if you don't get Manectric, but you should be able to guarantee Manectric with some dupes and stuff. So. All right, Volpe and Illumise, these are trash Pokemon. These are F tier. I'm sorry. Maybe one of them might have Charm or something, but like these are terrible Pokemon. I guess actually Illumise has Charm, so we'll put this around Masquerain, I guess, but these Pokemon suck. Don't. It's not worth it. Roselia is not in this game, unfortunately, but it is in Ruby and Sapphire, and if you get it, it's like bad version of this, I guess. It's actually worse than Vileplume. Who are we kidding? Put it here. Yeah. Sorry. And in that game, they're not even that good because you've got to fight Steven. So no. RIP. Wallet, good support moveset, pretty bad stats, honestly. So it's kind of B tier. If it was bulkier, if we had lefties, if it had reliable recovery, it would be better. But in this game, it's honestly not that good. It does have Yawn, makes catching Pokemon easier, but I think I'd rather have Manectric most times instead of Swalot. Sharpedo. Sharpedo is a high A tier Pokemon for sure. Not quite as good as some of the water types in S tier, but this is basically, if you train it right, then it makes Tentacruel really, really easy. It outspeeds the Xatu pretty easily, so you can kill the Xatu before it sets up Calm Mind. Stab Crunch, even though it's special, is pretty solid. Yeah, this is a high A tier Pokemon. This is really good, and it's pretty much guaranteed. Use this against Tentacruel. Wailord, Water Spout is cool, but it's too slow. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter because you can max out its speed IVs, and then you can devastate damage, but it's not better than these water types. I wouldn't put it in A tier. I honestly think Pelipper is better because of the immunity and the flying type. It's a solid water type, but it's not better than these other ones. Camerupt. Camerupt is decent. Earthquake and Flamethrower has really good coverage. I would put this in A tier. I would put it above Agron, I think. You get it relatively early, and again, it helps with Winona. I don't think you get it before Norman, so actually, I think I'd rather have Leiron into Norman, so yeah, we'll put this in. I don't know, maybe low A tier is too good for this, but you do get Earthquake pretty early. Torkoal is a really good Pokemon. White Smoke is helpful, or it might be able to get Shell Armor in this game as well, I don't know. I would put it around here. It's definitely defensively bulky, and if you train it well, it can be a good defensive pivot, and Flamethrower hits pretty hard. Not as good since it doesn't have Drought, but something like this for sure. Grumpig is a little too weak. It does have Thick Fat as well, so it can help into Torkoal and Flannery, but it's still a Spoink at that point. It evolves a little too late. Like if this thing evolved at like 28, then it would actually be very useful in this game. But because it doesn't, I would put this around here. I'd rather have these two. I'd rather have these guys. Yeah, this is fine, but you're probably gonna get this unless you get Machop instead. So it's not a terrible Pokemon. It's just not quite as good as I wish it was. I really like this design though. It's a very fun Pokemon. Spinda is ass, except for the fact that it has own tempo, so that can be fine. Sometimes you can abuse that to get free swagger boosts, but it's just a little bit too blah. There's better normal types, low C tier. It's not as good as this guy for sure. Flygon, resisting the urge to put it in S tier. It's not an S tier Pokemon. It evolves a little bit too late, and Vibrava is really painfully weak. And in general, Flygon is not as strong as it should be. If it had like 30 more special attack stats, or like 10 more attack stats, then it would be good, but it's honestly not that amazing. But, you know, it's still a good Pokemon. It's still a freaking dragon. It has Levitate. It has Stab Earthquake. So it's not bad. It's just, it could be a little bit better. This thing sucks. It's like that. It's the same thing. I mean, I guess this gets Needle Arm, which is kind of cool, but I think that's only 60 base power in this game. Don't use it. Altaria also sucks. It does have Dragon Dance. So if you want a Dragon Dance sweep, I guess we can put it in low B tier. But this thing is bad. It's amazing that Winona's Altaria was ever difficult. And that's only because it has Earthquake when your Pokemon are level 30. I can't put it in B tier. We'll put it in high C tier. It's especially defensively bulky, I suppose. But like, what are you doing with this? I don't know. Perish Song, maybe? Zangoose is like Vigoroth, but better or the same. I don't know. They're the same Pokemon. Savipe, I don't know. I don't have much experience playing with this thing. It's not good. If it had Intimidate like Cadabra, it would be better. It's probably around where Muck is. Poison types aren't that good in this game, to be honest, especially because you're very likely to get Crobat, so just use Crobat. Lunatone, I believe, is not in this game, but it is in Sapphire. They're solid, bulky Psychic types. Better than Roselia. Wait, why is Roselia in B? What am I doing? No. Okay, but this can be in B. It's better than Rhydon. And I think Solrock is in the game, and Solrock is really good. These are really good into Flannery, specifically, as long as you don't get crit, and decent into Norman. Whiscash is poor man's Swampert. If you chose poorly and didn't bring Swampert, you can get Whiscash, but it's kind of ass. The good thing about it is, especially if you delay the evolution by a couple levels, you get really early Earthquake. That's pretty cool, but it's low B tier. And you know what? We're lowering this guy. Let's be real. He's not A tier. It's a Camerupt. But yeah, Whiscash is high B tier just because of Earthquake, and it's okay. It's okay, but you don't have to waste your Earthquake TM on it, which is nice. Crawdont sucks. Crawdont sucks poop. I don't know if this is an F tier because water types are just really good. But yeah, don't use Crawdont. Don't use Crawdont. Yeah, actually this is F tier because Sharpedo is significantly better in every single way. This Crawdont blows. I think maybe it can have battle armor, but like, who cares? This thing sucks. The physical special split was not kind to this. This is like worse Kingler. How are you worse than Kingler? This is like, yeah, it's better than Corsola, I guess, because you can get it kind of early, but this thing blows. Claydol's very good. Levitate is always good. Similar idea to Sandslash. Unfortunately, I would say Sandslash is a little bit better because it evolves into Sandslash and Claydol does not before Norman. Something like this. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention is that Torkoal learns Protect by level up, which means that it can completely wall Slaking as well. And so can Dustox, actually, so that's why they're A tier, because they make Norman Slaking super easy. But yeah, something like this. I don't know. Cradily, really cool Pokemon, not very good. Bulky, I suppose, maybe somewhere around here with Blossom, I suppose. And then Armaldo, Battle Armor Crit is avoiding is good, but this Pokemon is not good. It evolves super late. I think I would prefer Cradily simply because Cradily can kind of stall stuff with Ingrain, which is a little risky because you get stuck in, but like, I think these guys are both not very good and they're both around somewhere here. Milotic, don't waste your time fishing for this thing. If you happen to get it, it's obviously a filthy Pokemon, but like, are you really gonna sit there and fish on every tile in that place? Very, very cool Pokemon, but I can't put it higher than like mid A tier. Like, it's a very good water type, but there's other water types that will basically do the same thing and won't make you want to smash your head into the wall, you know? So, I don't know, something like here. Cast Form is bad because it has to set up its own weather. Bad, don't use this. It's not a good Pokemon. Okay, Keklian. Keklian is reasonably, especially defensively bulky, so it's not terrible, but it's just too weak to do anything. I'd put it, like, around Spinda. Its ability, Protean or whatever, is decent. Color change, that's okay. Bayonet. Because Shadow Ball is physical in this game, it's not terrible. I would put it in B tier as well. Actually, it's probably the best ghost type, isn't it? It's like the ghost types in this game are not very good, huh? Yeah, it makes what's her name, Tate and Liza, a little bit better. We'll put it in high B tier. And honestly, same with Dusclops. Without Eviolite, it's too weak and it's like not bulky enough to be as weak as it is. But like, ghost types are always really good. High B tier maybe kind of, let's put it in low A tier. Ghost types are really good because of the immunities. I'm conflicted. Where they are in the game, actually, you don't really need the immunities that much. Tropius, I wish was better than it is, but it's not. It's one of the only Pokemon that like can learn Fly though. And you know, it's decently bulky. It's definitely not as good as Sceptile or Ludicolo. I don't think I'd even put it in A tier, but I would put it in high B tier for sure. No. It's not better than these guys. It's not better than this. It's not even better than these. I think I'd rather take Pelipper simply because Surf is better stab. I don't know. I wish Tropius was better. Chimecho, I don't know if I've ever used this in Emerald. It's a solid Pokemon, but like, not really. It's a solid Pokemon for you thinking that it's a piece of shit. But like, it's still a Psychic type, but no, get the Ghost types, don't get Chimecho. Get Medicham, you don't want Chimecho. This is a C tier Pokemon for sure. All right, we're getting into some of the Pokemon that are like, oh, you like forgettable Pokemon? Here's 6 forgettable Pokemon. Absol is not forgettable because like children think it looks cool, but it's not a good Pokemon. I would rather have all these Pokemon. I'd rather have these guys. I'd rather have these guys. I'd rather have the electric types. Actually, because of how good it is into Tate and Liza, we'll put it up here. I think I would rather have it for Tate and Liza. That's true. Yeah. Okay. Glalie, cool Pokemon. It's got like 80 base stats across the board, right? I think you're always better off with Walrein here, but it's kind of fast. If you're not going to bring a water type with Ice Beam, then this with Ice Beam is good into Drake. I don't know. I'd rather have the water type with Ice Beam. Honestly, I'd rather have Ludicolo. And it's kind of hard to get this. It's not very likely. You're more than likely to get Spheal. Something like this. Yeah. Walrein is very good. Thick Fat is nice. You get it kind of late, but it can wall the Kingdra pretty well. So I'm going to put this in low A tier. This is a solid Pokemon. I think it's better than this guy. Better than these guys. Something like this. Yeah. Stab Ice Beam. Nothing to laugh at for sure. These guys, you're never going to... I don't know. They're not good. Are they better than Seeking? Nobody is ever going to use these. I should have another category that's like, you're not using these. Why are you asking about these rankings? I think this has more special attacks, so we'll switch them. But Relicanth, you're also probably never going to use this. It's not good. It's a C tier encounter for sure. I'd rather have these. Grass types are a little rarer than water types. You're never going to use this when you could use another water type. Doesn't even have Head Smash. Yeah, no, you know what? This is... I might even put this in F tier, but yeah, because at that point in the game, there are so many better options. It's better than Corsola, but barely. Love Disc. Sorry, buddy. This is not a Drayano ROM hack. You are a trash Pokemon. I guess you're fast. You can use Charm, so you're actually not 100% useless. Use Sweet Kiss. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Well, it's fast. It's fast. But it's so bad. No, don't use this Pokemon. Don't use this Pokemon. Here, it's better than these two, but sorry, Love Disc. Salamence. I mean, if you get Salamence, it means you only got it after Waterfall, so after the 8th gym. But obviously, Salamence is an S tier Pokemon. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I would say because it's not as ubiquitous as these guys, we'll put it like here. But Intimidate, give it some speed EVs, Dragon Claw kills Lance. Or I keep calling him Lance Drake. Crunch beats Phoebe. Like this is, yeah, it's a gross Pokemon, and it's a Salamence. I don't know what you were expecting. Well, there you are. This is our Pokemon Emerald Encounters tier list. Remember, this is just my opinion. Feel free to disagree. Let me know what you disagree with in the comments. Hopefully I made a valid enough argument for all my placements. I'm sure like there was a little bit of a shift in how I was thinking about stuff at the end versus how in the beginning. So some of the earlier ones may be higher or lower than they should be. So let me know if you want to see more of these, what game you want to see next. We'll hopefully get through all of them. This was a lot of fun. So be nice. And wow, look at this Roselia. This Roselia is ridiculous. I think these are all the Emerald second. Like, look at this thing. Durr. Okay. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I meant to say don't forget to like and subscribe, but only if you want to. If you don't want to, then don't. All right. Peace.